Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Smart Networker. It's Monday. It's a day in April, and this is our Monday morning Zoom call. And we're actually mid conversation talking about what happened on Master Day, and the topic was the unique styles that people have. Now, what we were talking about also in that particular sense was, okay, Savannah, who became very successful, or started to build her business and got success by utilizing social media. Now, what was fascinating about that process was she did what I did, what Michael did, her father, and what other successful people did, is she figured out a way to reach people so that she could engage in conversation. Now, just like Leo has done. So Leo figured out a way that, and based on how he liked to work and what he did and all his experience, that allowed him to get into conversations with other people. Then what was interesting on that thread was finding out what was needed. Finding out what was wanted was another common term that I heard in that event, and what people were using. Because again, it's like, if we look at industry, if we look at Madison Avenue, if we look at big business and things of that nature, they're constantly searching for, what do people want? What are they after? What colors? What sizes? What shapes? What things? And of course, then we have on the creative side, people are creating things that attract attention and so on and so forth. So in what you said, Lynn, and what's really important here is the fact of, yes, that's the object of the game. You have to figure out how you do it, but the process for everybody and how we build the business is the same, has not changed, and won't change, because it's what everybody does anyway. I mean, we're a society of consumers, and the business is a society of makers. They make things that consumers consume. So our job as the middlemen, so to speak, is to get in between those two things, represent the manufacturer and present to the consumer, and then we match things up by, finding out what people need and want. And we now know that different people want different things. And again, from the standpoint of my perspective and what I learned and what helped me become successful in this business was, one, figuring out me and how I would like to do things, but more importantly, figuring out what was needed and what was the most common need. So that boiled down to economics. And because it's like cars. Every once in a while when I'm out walking, we go through the high school parking lot, and there's a gazillion different cars in the parking lot. Now, they all look, some of them look, especially the SUV types look similar. Some of the sedans look similar. But they're all based on the same concept and premise of a chassis, wheels, steering, brakes, transmissions that make the car go. And now they've got electric cars, so electric cars have a little bit of difference on the go part, but they still do the same thing. They're transportation methods for people to go from point A to point B. I drive a BMW M, and it's a little sports car. It's like a rocket ship. And I can step on that pedal, and it's like I'm thrust back on the back of my seat, and I take off, and it's like, whoa, awesome feeling. So now, there are some people that don't like that. I don't know why, but they don't. So here, this is the magic of this business, is figuring out how you do it and what other people need and want. So when somebody comes up with a bright idea, like Savannah did, or like Leo, and then other people try and copy that versus understanding what they did. Now, there are two different things here. because one is the mechanic and one is the style. So the mechanic of what they did was they contacted other people in some way, shape, or form. So back in the day, when I did it, I ran out of my warm market. So we suggest everybody go to your warm market. Well, why do you want to go to your warm market? Because it's easy to have a conversation. I mean, it's easy to sit down. And I always say, go with the, here's what my suggestion is when you're starting this business. Pick the person that you get along with the best, that you would love to work with the most, and who you think resonates with what you think the most. That's the person you want to talk to first. Why? Well, it's an interesting phenomenon with this business, and the perception came after time, but the perception is very apparent. It was something Susan Carver said. Get a check in their pocket. A decent check in their pocket. And it was like, you know, what goes on underneath you is what is important. So if I'm looking down in my organization, because that's the view, and I got the chart on the wall, and I got a bunch of activity going there, and I got volume, I go in my back office, and I got volume, I got people signing up, I got people breaking rank, I'm a happy camper. Because I'm seeing all this stuff going on. But if there's nothing going on, then I'm not such a happy camper. So then, from that perspective, that's what we're trying to accomplish, is get something going. And we get something going by finding other people that are interested in what we're interested in, but it's not because we're interested in it, it's because they see something. And that's the other point. And I forget who said this one, but it's not, you know, it was said many times before, but it's not once you're in, it's no longer about you, it's always about the next person, because your business grows when somebody else comes in. You make money when somebody buys a product. It's not what you do, it's what somebody else does, and what somebody else does is based on what you say. And it's based on what they see and understand. So, you know, when you listen to what Dennis Williams had to say, which was a fascinating story, and I watched that whole story unfold from the beginning of time. I mean, it was amazing what he accomplished. And I remember doing the same thing, traveling. The only state I didn't do a meeting in, I think, was probably Alaska. But every other state and every other country in the Nikan world, I went and did meetings in. But again, his business and my business, two different things. His results, my results, two different results. His success was his success, my success was my success. So coming back full circle, yes, you're absolutely correct. That is what you're here to do, is figure out how you get people to buy this product and join your business. And join your business because you're doing it, but join the business and become network marketers. That's the object of the exercise here. Now, how you get that done, I don't care, doesn't matter. That's how you get it done. And what's really important in the education piece was, I think I wrote this in the Smart Networker, and it might have been Invested Interest as well, but I went to every single meeting I could get my hands on. I listened to every presenter I could listen to. I listened to everybody that talked about the business, etc. And I took in that information and then made it my own. So I took in all the information, and rather than do it their way, I did it my way, but it was the same. You know, I made my presentation based on who I was. And I told my story because it was my story. My story was different than their story. So, but I wanted to understand something. One, who the company was. Two, what the products were. Three, what's the opportunity here? And four, what do you have to do? Well, of everybody that I've seen in this business, and I've seen everybody that's come in, we're all doing the same thing. We're out there, we're telling a story, we're talking to other people, we're finding out what their situation is. And when we see a situation that seems to fit the Nikan solution, we present the Nikan solution.
Recording.
Yes, we're recording. So, so now, in your area, what you have to do, and this was chapter 6 of vested interest, is what's going on in your economy, your society, your neighborhood, the people that you know, because that's who you're talking to. I live in Northern California. It's a whole different breed of cat here. I mean, you got some really strange characters in this state, but then you go down south into Florida and you got some really strange characters down in Florida. And so then I'm watching the news on Sunday, and here you got they were talking about the strike that Amazon employees went on in New York. And here you have this facility, I don't know, they have 8,000 employees in one building. And they're all young people. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, some Nikan distributor has to figure out how to camp on that campus because they would have the prospecting of their life would be done there because, again, that's the opportunity. And what do we do? Well, as a business, what we do is we talk to other people. That's it. Now, I'll give you some relative examples of talking to other people. I worked in the oil and gas industry, and we sold an investment. I'd have to dial the phone 100 to 120 times a day. Then I would make presentations. I'd maybe get 20 people to answer the phone or get on the phone because they were high executives, they were CEOs, that kind of a person. And you have to go through the gatekeeper, which was the secretary. And so you had to be really good at being nice. And then you'd make a presentation. You'd make these presentations. I'd do that all day long. Maybe I'd make 8 or 9, 10 in a day. And the object was to send them information. That was the whole object, to send them information on the potential idea that they would buy the product after you had the opportunity to talk to them about it. Okay, so make the presentation, get them to agree, send them a package of information, call them back a week later and sit down and make a presentation. So that's a lot of pushing out. Now, if I did 100 dials, 120 dials a day, maybe I'd talk to 20 people, maybe I'd send out 5 or 6 packages, and if I did that for a week, maybe I'd make 1 sale. We'll add up all those numbers. Now, I made a good living at that. Made a real good living at that. When I sold insurance, I went door to door to farmhouses. And I'd get up early in the morning from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and go out in the farmland, even in the wintertime, and go farmhouse to farmhouse. And maybe in the course of the day, I could talk to or go to 10, 15 different farms and make 2 or 3 presentations. If I did that 5 days in a row, at the end of the week, I might have 2 or 3 sales. And then I'd drive back home. So now, I had an agent there was another agent in the office, and he did this exact same thing I did. But he came back with 8, 10, 12 sales a week versus my 3 or 4 a week. And I thought to myself, wow, what's he doing that I'm not doing? Well, he was a little bit older. He was married, he had a family, and he'd pack up lunches and coffee and snacks, and he'd drive into the fields, and he'd drive, he just did things I never even thought. So he developed a style of how he would operate, which would then get him in front of people. Now, I got in front of people, he got in front of people. He just got in front of more people than I did. Well, this is very important. He got in front of more people than I did. Now, I'm going to tell you this. This is a numbers game. What do I mean by that? The more people that you can talk to, the greater your chances of finding somebody that says yes. The more people that you talk to, the greater the opportunity you're going to find somebody that wants to buy your product. So if you are in this business, and again, one of the lessons that's coming up will be monitoring your activities, and I've done there's a couple of videos on this on daverolf.com. Was what you have to figure out is what you can produce. So you have to know what the efforts of your activities generate. And again, this is a business, okay? And we heard that on Master Day. This is a business, and it's very important that, okay, so you want to make 8,000 or 5,000, whatever it is that you want to make, because that's going to take care of your budget, and you're the CEO of your business. Well, what's your job? Well, your job is to figure that out, is to solve the problem of what has to be done. So the first thing you have to know is what are you capable of producing? Well, how do you determine that? Well, you get out there and you work your tail off to figure out what results are created. So I'll go back. I'll use again, I could use Nikken. What I realized with Nikken was that I needed to sponsor. Well, why did I realize that? Well, because my sponsor told me that. And then what I said on Saturday was, history says the success came with people that sponsored lots of people. So it's one of those true datums. It's one of the truths of this business. If you want to be successful, you got to sponsor lots of people. Okay, so that's number one. So I sponsored lots of people. Now, in the first 30 days, I sponsored 15, and then I looked at my organization and I thought, man, there's only one person doing anything. So then I had to tweak that. So sponsoring was one thing, but finding somebody to build the business was something completely different. I want you to think about that one for a second, because this is really important. So in other words, and I mentioned this, I think, in the meeting also, was you could be doing a lot of retail, you could be signing people up, you could win the odd contest, but you could also be broke. Because you're spending money to get the leads, you're buying Google ads, you're really out there beating the bushes, and so the economics aren't right. Well, when I first looked at that, I said, well, the economics aren't right. I mean, I got all these people, but nobody's doing anything. I'm not making any volume. I'm not making any money. I can't survive. So viability became the measure. So what's viability? Well, viability means you're making more than you're spending in the bigger picture. Now, for me, the viability number, the break point was $8,000. So anything below that was I wasn't viable. Anything above that, I was viable plus. So then I had to figure out, well, what do I need to do to hit that benchmark? So I just put the blinders on and went, and I listened to what my sponsor and mentor said to do, and I duplicated what they told me to do. Plain and simple. They said sponsor as many people as you can. When you find somebody that wants to play, that's your second role, help them build. Because that's your business as well. And again, it was the viewpoint of the compensation plan that Nikken put out allowed you to get paid to 6 generations beneath you. Well, how the heck do those 6 generations happen? They happen because you find one who finds one who finds one who finds, that's how it happens. But you have to know how you make that work. So this was the other thing. How long does it take to create a silver? And this was an easy one back in the day, but again, from the standpoint of building the business. So you draw out a picture, so you see your organization, it equates to how much money you want to make. Now, what's it made up of? Well, we made our business up of silvers, and then all the other ranks were just combinations of silvers. So silver was the key issue, and I think it still is today, if you make it that. And if you build on that, the back end is still the same. So in other words, where the 99% of my income came from was the 6% income. 99.9% of my income in my career has been the 6% income. Well, what's the 6% income? Well, that's the leadership bonus area. That's where you get 6% of the CV of the leaders in your organization. So when I looked at the difference in the economy, yes, today it's a little different because the CV is different because costs are different. But when I go back and look at other things, they were also different. My mortgage was cheaper than it is today. A lot of things were different. And so that's just lifestyle. That's just life. That's the way it is. Well, wait to see what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years with inflation. The price of things is just going to go through the roof. And this is our opportunity also. You want to be prepared for this because the handle on inflation by the governments is to slow down consumption. They slow down consumption by, businesses need to contract. So less people will be hired. Things won't grow at the same speed. That's what the big problem is. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to provide people with a workable solution. And if you tied that into the $100 billion water market we have, man, you've got one hell of a story. Pardon my French, but you do. And again, if I look at everything I did, it was based on telling a story. Knock on the farmer's door. Hi, my name's Dave Rolfe. I work with Mutual of Omaha. I'm sure you've seen the show Wild Kingdom. And Merlin Perkins. Oh, yeah, I love that show. Watch it every week. Well, we're having a special. Blah, 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 blah. Story. Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm sure you invest. You ever invest in oil and gas? I'm sure you've seen the pictures of the oil market and blah, 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 blah. And people made fortunes. It's that story. Get involved with Nikon. New Japanese company in town. They've got this new technology, blah, 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 story. So everything is a story. Now, the story, I'm a Star Trek guy. There's a new series on Paramount Plus called Picard. And it's just fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. But it's also fascinating to millions of other people. People like stories. And especially stories that benefit them. So, what did Savannah do? She created a story and used the internet to attract attention, and people that liked her story contacted her. Well, in my day, we didn't have the internet. We had the old-fashioned thing of telephones and talking to people directly. But the same thing occurred. I talked to people, got them interested in what I had to think based on what they wanted. And if you listen to what she said, the people that got involved because they were interested in what she was putting out there. It's that mutual interest that creates this game. So again, coming back to where we are right now, we have one heck of an opportunity in dealing with what's going on in society with our story. And I would encourage you all to write Nikon and tell them, create that tap water video as a Nikon tool so we can all use it. I think it would be a great idea. Anyway, so we beat the crap out of that one for Lynn. And then I think, Nancy, you had your hand up as having a question or a thought about Master Day. So if you want to pop up and say something now. Did that handle you, Lynn? Are you good now on that? All right, good. And then, so Nancy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I originally wanted to ditto Lynn. Everything she said, I agree on, but I think all the presenters did an extremely good job. I think there were many more people on and shorter versions of it. I was impressed with Dave Balzer. He downed it again so we understand more. It wasn't so technical.
Yeah.
And I think Paul's story, Paul Gabius, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
That was an incredible story I had not heard. Very, very impressive. Elaine did a great job.
Yeah.
And Leo. I just thought it was more down to what we need, what consultants need, what distributors need. So I thought it was very well done. And Dave, you did a good job too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, exactly right. What was fascinating about each one was different, but the same. It was their approach or their style of what they did to get the job done.
Exactly. And something that we could relate to. Me as a
Yes,
distributor could relate to. Oh, that works. Yeah, I can do that.
yes, yes, yes. And so one of the things I've often said in the teaching, what you don't want to lead with your story because your story might not resonate with what their situation is, but you use your story to validate the solution for them based on what they need and what they want. So I'll give you an example of that. So in the very beginning, we had the rock sleep system. It was the brick, and that was one of the 7 major products that we had at the time. And so called people up and said, hey, you'll have the best night's sleep you could possibly have when you sleep on this mattress. And they'd buy the mattress, and of course, the proof was in the pudding. Well, people didn't like it. It was too hard. So they didn't spend the time they needed to get used to it to then get the benefit that it had to offer. So we found out very quickly that if we led with results before we understood what was needed and wanted, we usually failed. So if we found out what was needed and wanted and then provided the education to get that, it worked. So for example, well, we have a sleep system. Now this is going to take you maybe a week to 10 days to get used to, but the benefits are this. And if you've got this going on and this going on, and you sleep on it, you're going to love it. But your first couple of nights aren't probably going to be, because you got to adjust your body to it. Well, with that little speech, it worked, because what we provided people with was information rather than the shock effect of lying on the cement floor. That's what it felt like when you first got on that sleep system. So it becomes very important. So then it was like, okay, so what's going on with you? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you need that. All right, well, I've got that to help you with that. Oh, you need this. Okay, well, I've got this to help you with this. Or you want those things. Well, I've got these things here that'll provide you with those things. It was that kind of an approach. Now, Nancy, then the next step was, for me, I didn't have any owies. So this was a hard one for me. And I want you to understand that how people will think is like, my circumstances weren't those circumstances. But what I did have was a dead broke. Didn't have any money. Couldn't pay the bills. And because of that prior circumstance of losing everything, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. So that's what I wanted to hear. Now, at first, I didn't hear that. So not interested. Just put up the blank, and again, if you've ever run into that word, no, not interested, not interested, not interested, it's because you're just not hitting home for them. But then he finally turned the tide and started to talk money. Oh yeah? What's the money? And then he showed me, a check. You're kidding me. My eyes went like that, just huge. And now he got my attention. So what did that tell me? Well, it told me interest, benefits, action. That's what it told me. So I got interested in the benefits and then went into action because I wanted to get them. Because that's what I wanted. And again, this is really important in this business because it's not necessarily what you want that's important. It's what they want. But here's how you get what you want by helping other people get what they want. And that became that became the end result. In other words, you become successful in this business by helping other people get what they want, whatever it is. Now, to make that make sense, you must know what you need and want first, because you've got to go for that too. So in other words, I saw that, okay, I can sign up a distributor and they don't have to do anything. And if they don't want to do anything, they won't do anything. And if they don't need to do anything, they won't do anything either. And then I had to ask myself the question, well, is that going to help me? And I saw very quickly, no, not really. Because how do I make it in this business? Well, I make it in this business when other people do things. So if I got somebody that's not doing anything, they're not helping me. So I had to then adjust my thought process to say I also need to have people that I need. So then that datum came out of sponsor as many people as you can. But then when you find somebody that wants to play, do yourself a big favor here. Marry them. I mean, that's in the, not the literal sense, but the figurative, well, whatever sense, you know how that works. And help them build a business, because it's your business that you're building. See, that was the most fascinating part about it. It's your business that you're building. So if I sponsor somebody on my front line and I help him go 2, 3, 4, 5 generations deep, and he creates 200,000 points and that, and I'm going to get paid on those 200,000, that's my business. Whether they're underneath him or underneath me didn't matter, because he was underneath me. So anything underneath him was mine. Then I saw very quickly that people went too wide too quickly and didn't understand building depth. They thought, okay, I just sponsor people and it's going to work automatically. I just sponsor a lot of people and they're going to grow on their own because I'm a nice guy. No, don't work that way. It really didn't work that way. So lots of lessons to be learned, and thanks for that input, Nancy. That was great, and you're absolutely spot on. Anybody else have anything they want to share about Master Day or anything else for that matter? While I have you on the phone, are there any bilingual French-English participants on this call? I need a translator. Now, let me explain what I need, and maybe you can help me out. DaveRolf.com is in the process of being rewritten and translated into Spanish and French. What I need is somebody to review the translation to see that it meets with the English. So it's not, you don't have to translate, you just have to read the translated version and make sure it's correct. That's what I need. In exchange for that, I'll help you build your business. So if you know anybody that fits that bill, have them contact me on either the Smart Networker or on my email, or call me. And it's probably going to be a 6-month project to do all the work. And the amount of time that one would have to spend is maybe an hour to an hour and a half a week, maybe. Or maybe every 2 weeks. Anyway, there you go. Linda, yes, go ahead.
Hi there, Dave. Thank you for your wonderful presentation on Saturday. You're always inspiring. This is one thing going through my notes as we're talking now. I wanted to share with everyone. It was, of course, from the wonderful Dennis Williams. And I wrote down here, this really stuck out for me. As soon as we sponsored, this is him talking, he and Ruth, as soon as we sponsored someone, our goal was to create a situation where they had something to lose. That really stuck with me, because people will look at this and they'll get excited for the moment. It's like a roller coaster ride. You know, the ride's over and then they may disappear. But when you have that FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out going on,
Yeah.
That's how you keep your people interested and hungry.
Yeah.
And that's how they start building, their goals and whatnot. So that it was simple, but one of those simple, profound things that stuck with me.
Beautiful. Now, here's something that's fascinating. In when I wrote the book Vested Interest, what I saw and what came to me as a conclusion was what was vested interest. And it was based on the mechanics of how this business works. And the mechanics work on qualification. So if you want to get a paycheck of any size, you have to qualify and do that 100 points. And if you have an organization underneath you, you want to get paid on that organization, then you have to, do your group qualifying with, your directs and your executives. And in the leadership, it's the leadership bonus income that's required. So I happened to have a situation where I went away for a while, came back, and then all of a sudden I got this group underneath me with all kinds of volume. So I needed to qualify. So that concept of needing to qualify was the same concept of what Dennis was talking about, the FOMO, fear of missing. Because I was like, man, if I don't qualify, I'm going to miss out on $25,000 a month in income. So I better get my butt in gear. But then that was where I had the epiphany of, oh my God. So when I started to look at this, and this is so important that you brought this up, is that at the end of the month, if a person's going to make $2,000 or $3,000 and they've got to do 1,000 to get that 2,000 or 3,000 in income, they're going to do that. And that was the future residual income, was their need to qualify. Their need to qualify. Now, if I go back in time, prior to Nikken, back into other network marketing, what the whole concept with Amway was get a check in their pocket. That was your first goal with a new distributor, is put a check in their pocket. Now, how would you do that? Well, help them sell a product or help them sponsor a distributor. So that whole area, again, and here again, another part of this messaging is people see it differently, but it's the same thing. So when you listen or study to somebody's material, what you're really looking for are the mechanical aspects of it. Then your style or how you apply it will then dictate the results. Now, I've seen people try to emulate other leaders. Some are successful, some aren't. So that's not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is you get out there, you go through the school of hard knocks. And you figure out how you say it, how you do it. But mechanically, this kind of information is so valuable because it helps you see. Because again, there is no education of this business. This is the education right here. This is how we learn, or books, or somebody was successful. But usually the successful people don't really know how they got there. So they're basically, they're telling everybody, you got to do it this way. Well, I remember reading Al told me you got to put a list together of 200 people. How many people heard that one? I didn't have 200 people. I had 15. But I made that work. So I understood that what was the purpose of putting the 200 names together? Well, so you have people to talk to. And the more people that you talk to, the greater are your opportunity of finding somebody that says yes and wants to do what you. But once you get that person, see, here's the magic. See, each person that you bring into the business has the potential of 100 to 200 people. So just think about this one for a minute. Let's say you sponsored 10 people. Well, and they each had 100 people to talk to. Well, there's 1,000 potential prospects for your business. And let's say those 10 people, you signed up 5, and each one of them signed up 5, so you now got 25 on the second level, and each one's got 100 people to talk to potentially. There's 2,500 people in your business. to talk to. And that was the whole deal, guys.
Another thing is,
It's having people to talk to. If
oh
you had
God,
100
because
people
God,
to talk to every day, you'd all be happy campers. Because you know, if you talk to enough people, you got a great story, you got great products, and you got a great opportunity. That's where the bugaboo is finding people to talk to. So there's the crux of the matter. And so hopefully that'll add a little bit of flavor to that statement, Linda, but spot on for recognizing it. Somebody else. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're at 45 of the hour, and this was a good call, so I'm going to stop the recording here. I think we got enough recorded. And